Hello YouTube, this is Magical Musket Runick Fiendsmith. So the main idea with this deck is that we're trying to use the Runick and Fiendsmith spells to help the Magical Musket cards, do their whole thing. So I'm gonna start sorting these a little bit. Magical Musket, I really like the cards a lot. But one of the problems that I came across when building this deck was that there aren't many amazing cards. I think I really like the these 6 monsters. I really like cross domination and I like the traps, but I didn't really feel like playing more than one of each of the trap. The nice thing about this deck when building for it is that the runic cards are going to get you draws as you play with them. So that's going to be on your opponent's turn. And I was thinking about it and I was like, I could play more hand traps because that would give me, whenever you're playing the runic spells, it's really nice to draw into the hand traps. So normally I probably would have just played I probably would have just played 2 or 3 magical musket spells and traps, but I decided to bump it up to 6. And the reason for that is because of what I just said. Drawing into cards during your opponent's turn is really good with the Runick engine, and I think that being able to draw into like a cross domination is really nice. Or like a Desperado instead of like a, Ash Blossom or something like that. It's an in-engine way that is searchable to hand trap your opponent, and I think I like that more. So we play 6 monsters. We only play the good ones, in my opinion. I don't like the rest of them. I think they're more bricks than anything else. We can actually like look at the list of magical musket cards, right? This one does nothing as far as I remember. This one is like it recycles your resources, which is not nice, but I think if you draw it in your opening hand, it's not particularly good, and I'd like to increase power and decrease bricks, so I decided that there are better ways to recycle cards. I think with like the Fiendsmith cards, you can shuffle back your magical musket monsters, and with the spells and traps, you should be playing enough where you won't run out. With Calamity, reborning a monster for this deck, I don't think is particularly important. You're able to summon enough monsters that at like any point in time you should be fine. Starfire, amazing card. I don't like discarding, like the draw 2 is amazing. I don't like having to discard, and on top of that, it has to be a specific type of card. It has to be Magical Musket. I think that makes this card especially weak, because you don't really want to discard. You don't really want to discard any of your Magical Musket cards. I think discarding the spells and traps is really bad, especially if you're discarding a one of, and discarding the monsters kinds of sucks too. So I decided not to play it. Hawk, add a magical musket card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, like not an extremely powerful effect. I think it's just a little too slow. And then Casper, of course, is Casper. It's amazing. So with this, I mainly decided to keep up with the main 6 ones that I think are good, and then 6 hand trap-ish ones. Cross domination, I think effect negation is really strong. If I has to increase another, I would probably do Desperado because I think destruction is really strong. And then these 2 are both good. Banish 3 cards from a graveyard, or negate a spell trap your opponent activates. I think these are both really strong, but I'd just rather have Desperado or Cross Domination. And so I I'm thinking about putting Desperado up higher, and so I think that's the only one that I'd really consider that with. I will say, I think if you do run Kid Brave, you can run Wild, um, and that's probably a decent ratio of having like 3-3-1-1, or something like that. Maybe 3-1, somewhere around there. It's not my favorite ratio. I'm not a big fan of these cards, but I can certainly understand if you are and you think a little bit differently. So the next part is the Fiendsmith engine. This is really what melds this deck together for a lot of different reasons. So first of all, Tract is incredible in this deck because it's going to be searching your magical musket monsters, and that is just really powerful, of course. But it can also get you into your full Fiendsmith combo by just discarding a Lurry, which again is really strong. In addition to that, though, it is also a spell that you can activate to trigger your magical musket cards. So, Tract is an incredible card in this deck. It is phenomenal. And the same thing kind of goes for Engraver as a searcher for Tract. But what really shines about this about the card quality of the Fiendsmith cards in the magical musket deck is actually the extra deck monsters. Being able to use either one of your magical musket monsters to go into Requiem to summon, to just go full Fiendsmith combo. And that's why we play Starfire. Starfire is the best magical musket card in this deck, in my opinion, because it's going to get you access to Casper, which is going to get you access to your full magical musket engine. But in addition to that, it's also an additional body that you can put into Requiem so that you can go full Fiendsmith combo. So you'll have, with just like one Starfire and like one Runick and like one spell, doesn't even matter what it is, one spell, you can go full Fiendsmith combo, and you can go into your magical musket engine, which is just incredibly strong. So that's the Fiendsmith cards really just make this deck so much better than it was before. Yeah, we only play one hand trap, one rail hand trap, and that is Fua Loss. Fua is just such an impactful card that you kind of just have to play it at 3. But it's not the worst card to draw either in this particular deck, specifically because your Runick cards are going to be discarding cards to add your Fountain from deck to your hand. So even if you do draw it, it is like a way to discard a card, and that kind of does suck. However, it's not like the worst thing in the world, having to choose between like a Starfire and another Runick spell, and just having a Fua in your hand isn't like the worst thing in the world. So it can suck opening it turn 1, but you do have ways to get it out of your hand and through combos, so it's fun. And then we play the 15 Runick spells as well as 2 Fountain. These are just really, really strong. They do so much for the deck. They make it so that you can put bodies onto the board. They make it so that you can essentially hand trap your opponent. They make it, they just do so much for the deck. They're going to let you trigger your magical muskets during your opponent's turn, which is just so incredibly powerful. They really are just incredible cards. Really strong engine. I guess for the extra deck, we've kind of gone over it a little bit. Desiree, strong, just mainly just a boss monster to some extent. Lacrima This is going to be for getting out your High Wave King Caesar. 1 Gary and 2 Hugin. So I think a lot of people play 3 Hugin. I only play 2 because I think they're just better cards to play in the extra deck, and I think playing 3 is fine in a non-pure Runick deck. So yeah. Typhon for removing cards, High Wave King Caesar for an interruption. Underworld Goddess is just, removes bosses from the battlefield. It is really funny though, it is a light fiend, so you technically can go full Fiendsmith combo afterwards, which is just really funny. Access Code Talker for closing out games. Mastermind. So this is interesting for a few different reasons. It's really cool because your magical Musket engine or your Fiendsmith engine will get you here if you don't want to make your High Wave King Caesar. It gets you into your magical Musket engine, but it also gives you room for Max. So essentially you're going to go Casper, and then you're going to link that off for Max. And Max is going to allow you to add spell traps from your hand or special summon magical Musket monsters up to the number of spell traps your opponent controls. If your opponent already controls a spell trap, you're going to be able to search one, essentially. So the other nice thing about this card is that you're probably going to give your magical Musket cards to your opponent, right? Maybe like a cross domination, which is really funny because your opponent can't activate them, so they're just stuck with one less card in their spell and trap card zone. Which is also, if for some reason in 2025 you're playing against like a pendulum player, they just like die to this. Like they just can't activate one of their spell and traps or their pendulum monsters, which is kind of funny but also really sad for pendulum. But yeah, Darkness for getting into access code, Low Knight staple, Fiendsmith sequence of course, Fiendsmith combo, Max, and Requiem. So yeah, that's a little bit about the theory of the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.